Hi, everyone. My name is Elle, and I want to welcome you to our very own podcast, Women of the World Network podcast, where we hosting and meeting all these amazing women from all over the world. And today I have a special guest, one of our authors as well, Myriam Martinez. And before we jump into the call, hi, Myriam.
Hi, Elle. How are you?
Good, thank you. So before we jump into our conversation, I'm excited about this. I want to introduce you. So Myriam Martinez is a licensed psychotherapist, registered art therapist, women's life coach, successful entrepreneur, and founder of the Wild Woman's Creative Corner community. Myriam brings over 15 years experience working with women around issues of stress, self-inadequacy, and self-identity. She gently guides women towards a path of learning to embrace their womanhood and love themselves fiercely through the power of self-compassion and creativity. Myriam deeply believes that women are creative, intuitive, intelligent beings that are often conditioned to put themselves last and therefore lose touch with themselves and their creative spirit. Myriam's calling in this life is to teach women the power and importance of putting themselves first, loving themselves as much as their own best friend, and tapping into their creativity for personal and professional happiness, ease, and success. Miriam is based out of Northern California and is a mom of 2 teens and 2 fur babies. Hi, Miriam again. Awesome.
Hi, Elle.
I must say, I love, love, love what you do. And I know we're going to be talking about today
hmm
and in today's conversation. I love putting light into back to ourselves.
Yes, of course.
But before we jump there, let me ask you first, where are you from? What country are you from? Since we are a global community, I like to ask that first.
Yeah, so I was born in Panama, actually, and immigrated to the United States in the San Francisco Bay Area specifically when I was 7.
Oh,
So I've
wow.
been here for over 40 years now.
Awesome. 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 I love it. Tell us what you do. And I kind of read the bio in what you do, but I also want to a little bit expand that
hmm
in why you do what you do and
hmm
why it's so important for you, why you chose this path for you.
Right. Yeah, thank you for that. So if I could call myself anything at all, I would call myself a women's creative life coach. And what that means for me is that I help women learn how the creative process can help them access more information about themselves,
Mhm.
tap in deeper to their intuition, right? Work through challenges, difficult emotions, etc. There's so many opportunities, right, in the creative process
Yeah.
to help us keep moving forward so
Yeah.
we don't get into those stuck moments that make us feel bad. So I really like to teach women how that creative process can help us move in that direction. And it's really my passion,
Mhm.
right? Because as a trained art therapist, I am obviously familiar with the healing that art can bring, right? But I also help women understand that it's not about any kind of product, that you don't have to be a fine artist. And in fact, I actually label myself a stick figure artist because I want women to just relax, right? I'm not a trained artist at all. I don't have an MFA, but I am an art therapist, like I said. And so I do understand and value what the art process can do when we can just let go. And I really consider it such a spiritual practice in a way because you're spending time with yourself, you're
Mhm.
exploring yourself, you're exercising self-care, right? I mean, there's just like so many benefits that come from just carving out a little bit of time for some creative process.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. I love that creativity. And I remember attending one of your workshops,
Mm-hmm.
how it opens up and you kind of let out everything that's in your head
That's right.
on paper
That's right.
um, through different emotions, but in this case, colors. Uh,
Right.
on the
Yeah.
paper, it's so
Yeah.
interesting. And I've never done that before, but I've through the process, I've realized, wow, it's so interesting how it uncovers some of your sides and maybe gives, like you said, creativity, some ideas
Mhm.
also in the process,
Absolutely.
ideas. And
Yeah,
I
it's kind
love,
of never ending, like what the benefits are, from my perspective, but you said something really important, which is, you take what's in your head and you put it on the paper, right? And it's like, that's exactly, what is important here is that you get out of your head,
yeah,
right? Because we spend so much time in our head and
yeah,
thinking and thinking and thinking. And I think that's how we lose touch with ourselves and our body,
mhm,
right? So when we do have that creative process practice, then we can connect to that more and get out of our heads and back to our intuition, because I do believe that women are organically intuitive and creative,
yes,
right? And that the creative process is what helps you kind of tap into some of that stuff and extract it or get stuff that interferes out of the way, things like that. So there's just a lot of benefit to it in that way.
yeah. I agree. I love that. I agree with intuitive part. And I also love how you said you consider yourself a six-figure artist. I love
Right.
that. I love that.
Yeah, because I think that, there's so much conditioning around what it means to be an artist,
Yeah.
and it's very, very limited. Like you have to like be a famous artist, or you have to like be able to draw, lifelike form, all that kind of stuff. And so what I say to people is, if you've ever spent time with like a toddler, a 2 or a 3-year-old, and watch them paint, right? It's an amazing process because they don't have any limitations whatsoever,
Yeah.
right? They just kind of go to town with the paint. And so if you look at their art and you look at the artist, right? Who are we to say that that's not art and that he or she is not an artist?
Hmm.
And so to me, that applies to all of us then,
Yeah.
right? There are no rules about what
Yeah.
makes you an artist. You actually get to define that for yourself and what it means for you. But
Mhm.
often, again, we're conditioned in a
Yes.
way of how we look at art or who's an artist. And
Yes.
there's also like a lot of criticism I think that people grow up with, and rules about how you're supposed
Rules.
to do things and all that kind of
Right.
stuff. And that just really restricts your
Yeah.
creative flow.
Oh,
So
yeah.
a lot of the women that come to me are like, I don't know if I'm creative. Like they're kind of like really apprehensive, and it's like, oh yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't worry about it. We're gonna work on that, because part of the reason you're here asking the question is because there's some intuitive part of you that knows,
Ah, yeah.
right, that you actually are creative. It's just that this
Mhm.
conditioning is getting in your way a little bit. And then once I sit down and explain, the stick figure artist concept, and that it's not
Relax.
about a product, it's not about anything, we're actually just going to scribble a lot,
Yeah. I remember
right?
that's
And
what we
yeah,
did. Yeah.
exactly. And it's like,
I
oh,
loved it.
I don't have to
Yeah.
make anything any form. It's like, that's right. It's not about that at all.
Hmm.
And then that helps people really relax, because this
Relax.
isn't an art class, right? We're not getting
Yeah.
graded.
Yes.
No one's going
Yeah.
to critique your art,
Yeah.
right? It's just for
Mhm.
you. It's a personal experience,
Yeah. And,
right?
and I love that approach. And what you said it right, when we criticize ourselves, we see, we judge, the house has to have square, it has to be square. when,
Hmm, hmm.
the way we see it, and so we judge ourselves. But it's also what it's doing. I mean, we're not submitting it to, it's interesting, while we're judging ourselves, we are closed on all the creative openings
Hmm,
of gates, because it's
hmm.
like the judgment comes first, and then we cannot think about anything else.
Absolutely. It restricts our potential.
It's, yeah,
I
yeah,
really do believe that. And so once you start to relax around it a little bit
yeah,
and learn to have fun with it as a process, right? Then you really actually literally feel your juices flowing. Your brain kind of starts getting activated. You maybe start getting some ideas, or you feel less stress, or whatever it is, but things move,
yeah.
right? Whereas when we live in our head, it's very hard to move,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because the brain gets in its loops, and
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
it's hard to get out of those loops. But when you move again into that creative process, it gets you right out of all of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
True, so true. I love that. Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you for sharing your
Yeah, of
work,
course.
and that the uniqueness behind that work too.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was my first time. I haven't attended those type of. I mean, I've done the art workshops, the studio
Mm-hmm.
draw something, but
Mm-hmm.
it's totally
Right.
different, right? So I love that approach. I love what it's doing. You know,
Yeah.
I think there is a major force behind it that can change a lot of things when
Yeah,
people
and I
do
think when it
that.
comes to, again, we've talked about how business and personal, they're not actually separate in any way, shape, or form. You know what I mean? So if you can look at your endlessness on a piece of paper,
Uh-huh.
right? Like there's no boundaries.
Right?
You can do whatever you want on this piece of paper. It
Infinity.
doesn't matter,
Yes.
right? I feel like that's such a metaphor for life.
Yes.
So if you can, again, like lower those restrictions, right? Those guards that you have up, and you can just let go and let it flow, then you'll find that in your life,
Yeah.
right? Because those restrictions are there all the time. They're actually not just limited to the
Yeah.
art process, so to
Yeah.
speak,
Yeah.
right? We all struggle with restrictions, but again, that gets things flowing, and that you can see it manifest in your life, both in business and personal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mhm.
Love that. That's so great. Well, I want to move into the next very cool, interesting, and makes me excited topic is our book. Um,
Yes.
I know you are one of the co-authors in our second edition. That the title of the book is Recipes for Mind, Body, and Soul. And I'm just
Hmm.
so excited to bring this book forward and into the
Hmm.
world because it's such an amazing compilation of different recipes for not only kitchen. We do have some kitchen recipes, but to give all of our listeners a general kind of description of the book, what we have is recipes for life, for soul, for body, starting with forgiveness and this and that. But the unique part is also there is a recipe, but each recipe has a story behind it, how
Hmm.
that recipe originated. And if it's a cooking recipe, when people will be cooking those recipes, they will be reliving that story. And that to me is so amazing. And I'm just so excited that your story is in the book. So I want to talk about that. Share with us, without giving too many details, maybe a name of your chapter and what inspired you to write what you wrote about, and what you would like our readers to take away from that chapter.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think first I want to say thank you to you for coming up with the concept, and for the invitation to be a co-author in this, because the concept of the book I think is so beautiful, and it can feel so nourishing to all aspects of your being. And so I want people to have that experience as well, that this book is heartfelt, that it's warm, that it feels inviting, and that it has a lot to offer. So thank you for coming up with the concept and inviting me to be a part of it. So for me, my chapter is about my mom's very special recipe. And my mom passed away a couple of years ago, and it's been a process, to move through that and to grieve that, and for me, right, to learn from that. Like, what does this mean for me, right, now that my mom isn't here with me anymore? And so this recipe that I share in the book is a very heartfelt recipe because I have memories from my childhood watching my mom, make this recipe. And, to learn my mom's recipes, you had to follow her around the kitchen. She didn't operate from any written recipes, So some of her best recipes,
Oh,
we followed her for years, to try to make sure that we were getting all of the parts right, and that kind of stuff,
I love
and
it.
so yeah, after she passed away, I think it was probably on her first birthday, after her passing, and that's always a very challenging
Yeah.
time. I decided to make this whole feast, including this specific dish, right? And it felt like such a great experience in connecting to my mom, kind of keeping her alive in a lot of ways, and then being able to share that with the next generation, my kids. And, now they ask, for Mimi's arroz con pollo. They're like, when are you going to make that, mom? So it's there and it's happening, and it's really fulfilling in that way, and for me, it's interesting because it's the part about my mom is connected to my work as well, because when my mom passed away, one of the things that I had to kind of confront or face was that she had spent her whole life, sacrificing herself for us, you know, and how that, in our patriarchal culture looks like a loving mother.
Yeah.
And we all kind of tend to fall into that belief system. But what it really actually is, it's a lot of self-neglect, right? And so when I think about that, and my mom passing away without maybe having fulfilled her own dreams or
Mhm.
having her own existence, outside of being a mom, I'm like, I don't ever want any woman ever again to come to the end of her life, whenever that may be, and not have had that,
Have
right?
this
Not to have lived their
responsibility.
lives to like the fullest, the things they want to
Yes.
do, how they want to live, and whether you have children or not, it's irrelevant, but to feel that you have your own identity,
Mhm.
right? As a person, as a human. And so that's a lot of what I help women work through. It's,
Yeah.
loving yourself, having compassion for yourself. So that means taking care of you and prioritizing
Right.
you, right? All the people around you actually need you to do that,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Oh wow. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that story. When you spoke, it's so beautiful.
Thank
So
you. Yeah.
beautiful, Miriam. And the memory of your mother. And it's so true that generation, when you talk about your mom, I right away I'm thinking about my mom.
Mm-hmm.
How that the self-neglect that you mentioned, I feel
Yeah.
like it's that generation that
Yeah.
gave it all to the kids, to the
Yeah.
family. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
that is utmost priority above all
Totally.
else, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what made you quote unquote good,
Right. Yeah, the
right? And so
standard.
I feel,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. And so I feel like part of what's happening with our generation, right, is that women are feeling the discomfort of that,
Hmm.
right? Like this isn't how it's actually supposed to work.
Yes. Yes.
You're actually a
Yes.
human and you
Yeah.
have your own life and your
Your
own
life,
sense of
right?
yourself, But a lot of women think that that discomfort is something negative about them. And
Hmm.
so again, part of my work is to help them see like, no, that isn't actually what this is. This is your growth.
Yeah.
Part of you is trying to break out of the shell, and that's not a bad thing. It's just that growth hurts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? That's why they're called growing
Yeah.
pains.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's part of the process,
Right.
but that's what needs to happen also.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
that's my passion. I feel that deeply in my heart, for women.
Mm, I love that. And it's so needed. I feel like unless we break that pattern, do the work like you do for women, right?
Mm-hmm.
Showing them and that there is that as a side, then we help other future women, girls growing up to be mothers, becoming mothers, and understanding that there is your life, there is you being a mother, but you have your own, because when our cup is full, we're letting our other cup, having other women have their cups full, and our kids, they're not going to do what we say, they're going to do what we do. I
Exactly.
have two daughters, and so I have to show an example, because
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, we
Mm-hmm.
kind of follow our mothers,
Right.
unless
Exactly.
we learn
Exactly. Right.
otherwise. Yeah,
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
like you said, unless we go through that growth and
Mm-hmm.
understand, okay, this is what I don't want to be, or what I want to don't
Mm-hmm.
what I want
Mm-hmm.
to change, or
Right. Yeah. But you have to know that you have choices,
yeah, to have
right?
that awareness.
And so many of us are conditioned to think we don't have choices.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, we do. We have choices. It's just that we have to really get connected to that we do actually have choices, And I would take it a step further, Elle,
Yeah.
and I would say that really my mission, right, is to see a world where the transformation of the planet happens from women learning to love themselves and prioritize themselves.
Mhm.
Because if the self-sacrifice goes out the window, then we can step into our true potential and what we're meant to be here on this planet to affect change,
Mhm.
right? So for me, right, my little soapbox is that I feel like where we are
Yeah.
is because women have not had the space, to step into leadership,
Yeah.
to feel like they can be a part of this planet,
Right.
and contribute
Yeah.
to
Mhm.
policy and all that kind of stuff, so that it goes deeper for me. It's bigger than that. It's like, no, if you learn to love yourself and if
Mhm.
you learn to prioritize yourself, then you're going to be more open to sharing your gifts with the world, and that's what the world needs. No
Yeah.
one needs you to be hiding your gifts.
Right.
That
No,
doesn't serve
no.
the planet.
Right. Right. Yeah,
Yeah, so I
absolutely.
feel really, really strongly about that, that's how we affect change.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's so great. Yeah. And thank you for participating in the book. Thank you for sharing that
Of
amazing
course.
story and
Yeah. Yeah.
recipe.
Mhm.
I know it's, every time someone will read it and cook it, it's gonna, have those those
Yeah, yeah.
beautiful memories that you have of your mother. And, it's so beautiful. I love that.
Mhm, and I think that's gonna be the tone of the book,
Yes.
right? Like, just a
Yeah.
lot of warmth, a lot of heartfelt stuff, and
Yes.
powerful messages, for
Yes.
women, and I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And those stories behind, some of them are just so unique, so amazing and diverse. Different type of stories, different areas. I'm not gonna, say a lot of things, but it's just that what makes it so unique. I think each one brings its own story.
Mhm,
Have a
mhm.
Second World War story in Russia, and the connected to food supply is just amazing. So I'm excited to bring that book
Yes.
forward. So that book will be released this spring, and so we'll be bringing more details very very soon to you. But I'm very excited about that. So moving on, I want to, before we jump into the final part, I want to ask if you want to give advice, Miriam, to women that you feel most passionate about and connected to your work that you
Yes,
want
absolutely, yeah. I think the advice that I have for women is to really understand that you are a creative being. It's not really a question. It's just the truth, right? And it's important to tap into creative processes, right? Whatever that means for you, so that you can continue to grow,
to. Hmm.
right? And share more gifts with the world.
Yeah.
Right? So the creative process is a very important way of helping yourself move through life with a lot more ease, tapping into your insight, trusting yourself, your inner knowing, right? And that's kind of all we need. That's
Yeah.
our driver in life, right? Instead of anybody else or any other rules being the driver in our life. It's like, no, we're driving.
Love that.
Yeah, we're in charge. And I think that's very powerful.
Very powerful. And I
Hmm.
find myself, with act, push, 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 do,
Hmm.
all of that. I find myself that, I just wanted to do it with ease, when it comes with ease, without, because that's the way we were trained, to push, push, push to do, and
Hmm. To do, to do, to do.
it's
That's
to
right.
do, it's a lot of masculine energy, which it's good to
That's
have a
right.
combination, right?
Yeah.
But when we
Too much of that is an imbalance though,
yes,
right? And I think you're right. That's what we're talking about, is that there's an imbalance oftentimes for women in the masculine and the feminine, because the culture says we should be masculine and we're trying to do something that we can't do. Some of us might that have more masculine energy, that might be easier for them, but I know for me, I tend to be more towards the feminine, and so that really challenges me,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, so that's an important
Very true.
component of it for sure.
Thank you for that advice. Very,
Yeah, of
very true,
course.
very needed, and great reminder. um One more question I have is what it means for you to be a woman of the world, being in the community of Women of the World Network.
Oh gosh, that's such an important question. It means so many different things for me, but I think the first thing that pops into my head is that it means to be a part of a community that is embracing and welcoming and eager to
Yeah.
have diversity, in its community. And so that really means a lot to me. So I
Mhm.
think that's the thing that stands out the most.
Beautiful. Thank you, Miriam.
Yeah. Yeah, you're so welcome.
So my last part is
Okay.
rapid fire questions.
Woohoo!
Those are always fun, right?
Yes.
So are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. Your favorite book name is?
Untamed by Glennon
Oh,
Doyle.
love it. My favorite book too. I love it.
Life changing. Women out there, get that book.
Yes, love that book.
Yes.
Beach or mountains?
Beach.
Me too.
Without a doubt.
Favorite international destination to visit?
Ooh, that's a tough one. My husband's Greek, I'm Panamanian. Oh, that's a tough one. I'm gonna go for Greece though, for sure. I love being around
Love
the
it.
Greek people and the food and the culture. So
Yeah, love, love, love that. Summer or winter?
summer.
Things that you have discovered about yourself recently.
That I am stronger than I ever thought I was.
I love it.
And that makes me feel really good.
Yes. Thank you for playing, Miriam. And
Yeah, of
thank
course,
you
that was
so
fun.
much for this conversation today. I really enjoyed it. Oh my gosh, I enjoyed it so much. Thank you for being open, transparent, and thank you for all you are doing for women.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. This was a super fun conversation, and I just love bringing these powerful messages to women all over the world.
Beautiful. Well, thank you. And we're going to conclude, and I'll see you soon.
All right, bye. Have a great day.
Bye.